Right, today is where things get real. In the last episode, we finally dropped the Talbot Matra Rancho shell onto the Subaru WRX base for the very first time, and honestly, it fit way better than anyone actually expected. But now we've got to prove that this crazy idea can actually work. So in today's episode, we're going deep into the test fit, lining up the shell properly, checking mounts, heights and clearances, and finding out what hits, what misses, and what we need to cut out completely. And then we can start the interesting stuff, actually fabricating the Rancho shell onto the Subaru chassis. And if something doesn't line up today, then this whole build could fall apart. But let's not forget where we started. This all started with one small, crazy idea. And that crazy idea is coming to life day by day, but we still need to prove that this is even possible. So now is a good time to hit that like and subscribe button. Now in the last episode, which I'll leave a link in the description, I did mention that we've got a big issue with this door fitment. Now I'll leave it till later in the episode to explain that, but first we're going to move onto these sills and try and get this Rancho shell fitting correctly onto the Subaru chassis to then be able to fabricate around it. The most important thing is making sure the Rancho fits well, not only for looks, but also for structural safety. That's why it's important for us to take our time and think about what needs to be welded to what, and where key elements of the Rancho need to be welded to the Subaru. Our first task is to try and match up the pinch welds along the door opening with that of the Subaru. So we need to remove the metal to make sure the Rancho shell sits down correctly. So now it's time to get the angle grinders out and start removing the metal which is no longer needed. And don't worry, we've made sure to completely flush the lines out of fuel that run across the inner sills, as you can see here. So now it's time to do the same on the other side. Once we have the shell sitting at the correct height and with the windscreen sitting where we want it, we can then turn our efforts to the back. Now in the previous episode, we know that the back is far wider than what it should be, so we need to come up with some sort of solution to try and close it back in. Right, so the situation is we've got these sills sitting quite nicely. So if I press down on this, you can see that this pinch weld actually meets. Now it is a little bit further off down here, but we do need to trim a little bit more down here. So that means that the height is good and the orientation is good. Now we do need to trim a little bit more off here because we need this to sit further into the car to then be able to start fabricating and cutting all of this back here. Because from the last episode, we know that this is actually 150mm too wide, and we actually need to pull this in, and we need to countersink this into the strut tower because we don't want to cut the strut tower. So we need to cut this and countersink it into there to make sure that the door fits on the back. The important thing is making sure the door fits on the back of the Rancho to make sure the Rancho is dimensionally correct. So the best option we have is cutting part of the Rancho box section to countersink it into the Subaru strut towers. So now we can start trimming everything on the back, which is preventing the Rancho box section sitting against the strut towers. Once that's done, we can measure again. Right, so we know that we need 1 meter, 100mm for where the Rancho needs to sit. Now, we need that for the back door to fit, for the fiberglass to fit and all that sort of good stuff. Now, we've cut this section off here and let this inside sit flush with this strut tower. Now, the reason for that is because we wanted to get it as far in as we could before we start cutting into this. Now, if we measure this now, we've got 1 meter, 185mm. So that means that we just need to gain 85mm to get to the 1.1 meters. So that means we don't have to cut all of that box section off, we just need to cut some off. Now here it's put up against it, which means we need to we need 45mm either side back here, but we only need probably 40mm here because it's closer, you know, it's further away from the dimension that we need. So we're probably going to cut the bare minimum off here, probably 35mm, and let this sit in and then do the measurement again because we don't want to cut too much off and compromise the structure and all that sort of good stuff. We are going to weld something on the outside of this because we do need to cut this inner box section off, but what we're going to do, like I say, is we're going to weld a L section on the outside of this to keep the strength, and then we're going to cut inside here, cut across, and try and let it sit in to then try and get that 1 meter 100 dimension that we need. Now this here, you can see that we've already got about 25-30mm there anyway. So we need to cut this to let this sit into there and then do the dimension again and see exactly what we need from there. So yeah, we'll get some angle iron, weld it on the outside of this to maintain the structure, and then we'll start cutting. It's easy to get carried away and just start cutting, but we need to make sure the Rancho shell doesn't flex while we're doing so that's what the angle iron is for. So once we have the height where we want the Rancho shell to be, we can then start cutting the hollow section on the strut tower to allow the Rancho to countersink into it. Now, after another dimension check, we can get the angle iron welded on. Now that that's done, we can start cutting into the Rancho box section to be able to countersink it into the strut towers. Right, progress is good. So we've cut this back section here and we've managed to sink it into that strut tower. So we're going to do the same with the other side and then get that all important 1.1 meter measurement and, you know, fiddle around with that. While we're doing that, my dad's going to be looking into this door. So if you remember, I did mention that we did have an issue with the door. Now, obviously the Rancho is a lot narrower than what the Subaru is. So the pinch weld where the door aperture shuts into, that's actually different on the Subaru. It's further out. So that means that we can't actually shut this door properly. Now, the door is the most important thing to make fit, because if it doesn't, then you're going to get wind noise and it's just not going to work. So we need to, what we are going to do is, we've had a conversation about this, the best way to do it. We could stretch this out, but it means that the door isn't actually going to fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim out this door section down here to allow that to fit better into the Rancho and better to where it needs to be. So as you can see, this is too far out. So we need to take this off here. We need to cut this out so it actually fits further in, and then we'll see where to go from there, basically. We don't want to alter this too much because the bulkhead and this A-pillar actually depicts how big the dashboard is, and we want the dashboard to fit in there nicely when we do actually put that in. So yeah, we're going to cut this out, sink that in, and then we can see exactly where this needs to go and exactly what we need to do with the door. The door is an important aspect of the build as it shows us how far forward the Rancho shell needs to sit. This is because we're using the Subaru A-pillar, and the door needs to fit within the gap that is formed between the A-pillar of the Subaru and the door surround of the Rancho. So now, after another few dimensional checks, we can start work on the opposite side by removing the hollow panel and then cutting it into the Rancho box section to countersink it into the strut tower. And in the meantime, my dad can start working on the spare door we have to try and fit it onto the car. Right, this back is now dimensionally correct. So we've got 1.1 meters from this inside section to this section over here. Now we can tack this on, but we've also got to take into consideration the top here. Now this actually rotates backwards and forwards. We can't simply use this, which is behind me, because that also rotates out. So we need to get the dimensions from this, which is the back hatch, and the back window as well. So we need to make sure this is also central to the Subaru. So on this side, we've got 2-inch. And on this side, we've got 50mm. So that means that it's so that means that it's actually central to where it needs to be. So my dad's going to continue stripping down the door, and we're going to start stripping this down to then be able to offer this up. But one thing we do need to take into consideration is these hinges aren't actually the original hinges. So we need to take that into consideration. So yeah, my dad's going to strip the door down. We're going to do this. Right, we're making progress. This door fits a lot better than what it did. Now it actually does fit the contour of the Subaru down here as well, so we don't want to cut too much of this off. Now we just need to cut a little bit deeper on this top section to allow that to go further in, but we can't cut too far because obviously we've got all of this section here that we need to put the wing over. So got the crusty wing in question. Now we do need to remove all this, but we need to make sure that this actually fits on the front before we cut too much of the door up. So as you can see, this section here actually impedes on this A-pillar of the Subaru, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut this section off and just see how it fits, and maybe even balance the bonnet on and just see how everything fits to know where this door is going to go. We can extend the bonnet, we can extend the wings if we need to. Obviously the most important thing is the way that the door actually opens, but all of this can be modified anyway. So my dad's going to continue cutting this to make sure that sits a bit flush. I'll cut this up, we'll offer it all up and see how it fits. Right, so we're good at the front there, but this does need to come off.
Yeah, it's touching this, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's touching that. Might need to just slice down here on the A-pillar of the Subaru just to bend that in.
Take that in. Well, if we take this off completely off there, then we're good at the back. We've got lines at the front. It is out here a bit, so if we can get that in, that'd be good.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, something that kind of resembles a Talbot Matra Rancho. Now, you wouldn't think there was a Subaru underneath there, which is absolutely crazy. Now, we do have more issues, including this section here, including where the dashboard is going to sit and where the Talbot Matra Rancho windscreen surround is, but that's an issue for another day. So do make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, do hype the video, share it with all your friends, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the SubaRancho.